Well, hey, hi, Glenn here at home in the garden. Now, it should be fairly easy to see that the growing season is over, it's done, it's complete. Now, what I wanted to do is give you a couple of tips just to put your garden to bed before winter. And I already said it, winter is here. Now, a couple weeks ago, we had 8 inches of snow, and I would have sworn we were done for the season. I was able to get the last of the tomatoes and some of the other stuff harvested, which was great. I didn't think we were gonna get any work done in the garden. Wouldn't have been the end of the world, but hey, before we kind of go through those tips, what I wanna do is give you a reminder why we garden. And back in September, I shot a whole bunch of footage kind of doing a garden tour. We're gonna take a look at that garden tour and see all the pretty flowers, see all the vegetables, see everything growing. While you're watching that, I'm gonna do a little bit more cleanup here because the heavy stuff isn't supposed to come down for a little while yet. All right, you enjoy the tour. I'm gonna get to work. Yeah, I think I said in one of the earlier videos at home in the gardens that a good vegetable garden is 50% flowers and 50% vegetables. And the zinnias, the marigolds, the glads are absolutely beautiful. And hey, check that out. Little hummingbird joined the garden tour, pretty cool. And I didn't know that glads, probably should have figured it out, but glads really pull in the hummingbirds, kind of cool. Good reason to have them in there. But let's talk tomatoes. Those are the San Marzanos, and I did one video that kind of talked about pruning tomatoes. Well worth it. The San Marzano aromas this year were just incredible. Worth planting. Seek them out, find them. Great sauce. And speaking of hot sauces, yeah, the habaneros, made a couple different habanero sauces. You can find some of that over on my Instagram page, Workshop at the Gardens. I posted a whole bunch of reasons why you should garden. And one of them was chilies, one of them was hot sauce, one of them was salsa. Yeah, it was all really, really good. Marigolds, love marigolds for whatever reason. But behind them are the onions, and they were kind of done by now, but still waiting for a few of them to completely die off so they don't sprout. And then across to the cucumbers. You saw the video about the cucumber ladder, what to do there. And wow, so much basil this year and so much cilantro. Pesto, we had the most amazing pesto this year. Incredible. Would have liked the Italian flat parsley to do a little bit better, but it was okay, not bad. Potatoes, that was the potatoes right there. They did great. And we had a bumper crop of big, beautiful pumpkins. And actually, Michelle was quite excited to have pumpkins up on the porch this year. We carved a couple the night before Halloween, and a lot of fun. Didn't do any pumpkin seeds, thought about it. The only dill plant that survived all of the seeds, and yes, that one too was consumed by the rabbits. They got all the dill this year. Oh well. Kind of one of the last things we threw in the garden was some sunflowers. And so happy that we did because they were just stunning. Sunflowers just make me happy. One of the big pluses of having all the flowers in the garden are the pollinators, like that big bee you just saw, and this beautiful monarch that came in for a little sunflower love. All right, and it was birds and bees when I was filming this, because off in the distance, you can just see a speck over there. A big, huge, bald eagle was flying by. Kind of cool, just over the river, not too far from us. And yes, there's a reason they call them sunflowers. moving over to a different part of the garden, yes, the straw bales. This was my first venture, my first time straw bale gardening. Now, there is a great video where actually the straw bale garden guy, Joel Karsten, came down and spent a good morning with me explaining how to do it and actually getting us set up and started. And then I failed miserably to finish getting all of my trellising in. But besides that, they were extremely successful. You saw the summer squash and the acorn squash and all kinds of beans and tomatoes, and I have cabbage, and just learned so much about the straw bale gardening and how cool that is. Definitely, I'll put a link up above for that video for straw bale gardening. And if you've done any straw bale gardening, please leave me a comment down below and let me know how it went, what you did. Next year was going to be year number 2. We are going to reuse these bales and add some more straw bales to the garden, so you'll want to watch that. Doesn't look like much, but that little bird bath provides a lot of activity in the garden, so it's fun to watch all the birds and the bees and the butterflies and everything that come to that water source. Having a constant water source in your garden is really beneficial. Okay, well, that is kind of the tour of the garden and a really, really exciting first year of the rejuvenation. I think it's probably been 8 or 9 or 10 years since we actually planted something in that garden, so it was really successful. I'll put a link in the comments and in the end screen to the whole playlist for At Home in the Gardens, and watch the videos and get inspired so you can take on a garden project. Doesn't have to be this big to begin with, or it can be bigger, but just get out there and garden and just enjoy some of the pleasures of flowers and vegetables and the therapy of gardening. Well, it doesn't look all that much different from when we started rejuvenating the garden this spring. Yeah, it does. There's the paver walk, the beds got cleaned up, the beds got put in, more edging, the blue stone. So we got quite a bit done. And one of the tips I wanted to show you as far as cleaning up is the ground hasn't frozen yet, so that's a big plus, but it is wet. And one thing that you don't want to do when you're putting your garden to bed in the fall or even pre-winter or winter is walk on the beds themselves. So if you have a big one wide open bed, you don't want to be tilling, you don't want to be working your soil when it's wet. And that's what's really nice about this system of beds and kind of the mounds I have going over there, is that I'm able to stay off of the soil, and you can see that it's still nice and loose, but if I were to walk on it, it would compact and get really, actually just even pushing down like that gets hard. So with the beds or in between, I can walk in there. I can do a lot of the work needed even at this time of the year. That's one of the big tips, is don't work your beds, don't work your soil when it's wet. Another tip that you can try to do is to get all of your debris. Not every single leaf, not every single thing needs to get out of the garden. But if you're pulling your plants, you're pulling that. I had been working on this for quite some time. I mean, as the peppers were done, I pulled all the pepper plants. As the cucumber kind of finished up, I took the cucumber plant down. When we harvested the last of the tomatoes, I pulled all the tomato plants. So there wasn't a lot left to do. I just wanted to get these last zinnias and marigolds and get that cleaned up. That's one of the big pluses. Our ground won't freeze here for a little bit. It'll start to go down. Here in Minnesota, we're a zone 4. So we will get, where I'm at is a zone 4 here. We'll get 24, 36 inches of frost, frozen ground all the way down, but not for a while. So make sure that you blow out all of your hoses. That's an important thing, hoses and spigots. So that will happen, doesn't have to happen before the snowfall. It'll happen in the next week, so make sure you get that done. I don't even know what other tips to tell you. That's the big thing. I failed. One of the tips was going to be try to pull as many of the weeds now, so you don't have to do it in the spring. But since you were watching along as we were doing the garden rejuvenation, I love it. I think all my neighbors think I'm crazy, because maybe I am. But if you're watching along in the garden rejuvenation, you saw how many weeds we pulled. Just the more that you get out in the fall is the less that you have to deal with in the spring. Okay, so, and I am not going to try to get any more of these weeds. The last thing I will do, there's 2 things left that I will do. The sunflowers are going to come down. Weren't those sunflowers effing gorgeous back in the garden tour? A neat thing that I will show you is they have been picked clean, so there is not a seed left in any of these sunflowers. So leave them up as long as you can. The birds do love them. The last thing, that's one there. The other thing, I will take all my cages and put those over here behind the carriage house. And then the last little thing I will show you is the compost. So I got the lawn mowed and some of the leaves and grass clippings piled up on the outside of the compost. And this is my compost bin pile. I don't know if you want to call it disaster. This is the only thing that I will recommend you build out of pallets. Pallets are not for furniture. Okay, I'll get in trouble there. But anyways, so next year, let's talk a little bit about next year. We're gonna do this again. You won't have to watch me dig out weeds for like 8 sessions. We're gonna cover a few more topics next year. So if you're joining us for the first time on one of the At Home in the Garden videos here, consider subscribing to the channel. I do some other things. Winter's here. We're going to be heading into the workshop a lot more, and we're going to be getting back to milling a lot more. But next spring we will be tackling the garden, doing some more expansion on the garden. We're going to be rebuilding the compost pile, because obviously it's not big enough. So thanks for following along at Home in the Garden with Glenn. That's gonna be it. I'm gonna do these last little things and have a great winter planning your garden for next year. Leave me a comment down below if there is anything that you want to know about what I did this year and why and how, and we'll go from there. All right, take care, enjoy. Yeah, one more parting shot. So everybody remembers Jack the garden dog. Here he is. Well, hello. I'm not sure what we're gonna call these guys. This is Walter the weed eater, maybe. And this is Finnegan the flower fetcher. I don't know. They found us. A couple German short hair pointers joined our clan, and Jack the garden dog, he's okay with it. There we go. Happy gardening. Enjoy.